Well, welcome everyone to another great podcast of SOC Stars. My name is Vlad Babiuk with Stellar Cyber. And today we have an amazing new session that we're going to be recording around AI, Autonomous SOC, Agentic AI, and a bunch of other interesting topics that we're going to be discussing with our good friends from Sumitomo Chemical. And Andrew's joining me today. Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself?
Andrew Dutton. And yeah, I work for Sumitomo Chemical in the Americas region, North and South America. And I work at the regional headquarters IT department. And we do a lot in cybersecurity, AI, and other technologies that help our group companies share resources and technologies.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for the introduction. And I know we briefly spoke about it in some of the interactions over email. I know you guys are also kind of joining the wave around AI and the implementation and discussions around it. And I wanted to kind of start with the big picture. How is AI shaping your security and your business roadmap today?
That's a great question. And it's multifaceted, right? So we have multiple AI initiatives in business, right? And we have multiple things going on within IT. So we really kind of break it down into core business AI use cases. Okay, that might be something in our production facilities where we're really what I call the real AI use cases. Then we have AI use cases within our products. So that might be within something like Salesforce or another product which includes AI built in to help do things. We're actually looking at in the security side, what tools and what AI capabilities really to operationalize those things so that, that we could become better. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to use AI to be better at being able to focus on what we need to, understand what events are serious, being able to respond to those events, and being able to really recover from those events as fast as possible.
That's amazing, Andrew. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm seeing this as well within the industry. There's definitely a great opportunity there to leverage that. I'm seeing it as well in our organization, leveraging it to, driving consolidation through intelligent correlation. Like AI kind of uses the data from across the enterprise, network, endpoint, cloud, etc. It really creates like this high fidelity incident stories, reducing alert fatigue and boosting analysts' efficiency. I wish during my time when I was in the military that I had something that was kind of helping me, working with me, not against me. But, 10, 15 years ago, when you worked in a SOC, I think it was more of a manual process rather than this kind of automated kind of view that you're seeing today. And everything is kind of with AI, it seems to be a little bit more leaner, more effective for security teams. And so you're seeing that AI is actually augmenting the human analysts and allowing smaller teams to handle enterprise scale threats with confidence. And I think that's a game changer, in today's talent kind of constraints environment. And kind of continuing with this, the interesting aspect of things that I'm also seeing, and you've probably heard it a million times as well, it's agentic AI. Systems that act on goals autonomously. Is this just science fiction for security, or are you seeing like early traction?
To go back to what you were just saying too, AI has been around a long time in our lives, right? But agentic AI is just the next sort of what I really look at. That's just the next version of being able to bring to people, the ability to use these AI bots or LLMs in the back end so that you don't necessarily have to be an electrical engineer to figure out everything that's going on. And no, it's already here. We're already seeing real world use and being able to use agents, and then those agents starting to learn from each other. And I think that's really that next step. I really look at, when people talk about AI, there's so much to talk about, right? And we go into many details, but I really look at it like a cloud computing, right? Back in the day when cloud computing started out, kind of some people were like, it's not going to be a thing. We're going to worry about it. And today, cloud computing is just a basic part of our lives, right? We're either using SaaS tools or we're using infrastructure as a service or platform as a service, right? AI is that next piece. You really need to be embracing what it is, because that's the next just piece of your infrastructure that you're going to be using. And you are so right, Vlad, that it's just going to be helping you do your job so much faster. Still got to watch what what's going on, and be able to just raise up your team or whatever it is that you're doing to be able to do things just so much better.
That's actually exactly the way I was kind of thinking it as well, Andrew. And I mean, I'm seeing it as well being implemented more effectively in some organizations than others. Whether it's a single organization that is specifically just focused around dispersing some of those agents in specific use cases like threat hunting or triage and things like this, or bigger organizations that are implementing some parts of it or kind of testing it out. And I like the way you kind of said it. It's almost like an evolution, and agentic AI is being more embedded into the kind of workflow of what an analyst is expected to kind of do. And we're seeing this trend as well, where before we've seen event management and information management kind of combining together into creating like the SIM. Then we've seen the next generation SIM. Then we've seen the XDR, the OpenXDR, the SecOps is one of the things that you've seen probably last year, the unification, consolidation, still happening probably, But this agentic AI, our models are getting better at like context awareness, helping with decision making. They're also taking on kind of higher order tasks like orchestrating, like full remediation across hybrid environments, which I think is going to be very important. And one thing that I would also mention, my next kind of thing that I wanted to talk is actually the autonomous SOC, which kind of ties in very well with agentic AI. But the last thing is this kind of human in the loop, and I think that's still going to be key. It's today's agentic AI kind of supports and I think accelerates analysts, not replaces them, because there's a little bit of a scarcity in the kind of in the market where people think, oh, it's going to replace, it's going to be fully, you're not going to need analysts. I don't think it's supposed to replace. It's supposed to enhance the analyst's ability for them to be able to focus on kind of more well-defined areas. So it becomes more like a semi kind of fully autonomous operation, but in a specific kind of area. And kind of tied into this, I heard a lot of buzz around autonomous SOC. How real is it? Is this something you're building towards, or is it kind of more of a kind of North Star vision for your organization?
Let's talk about to ramp up to autonomous SOC. You mentioned quite a few things that are just spot on. Number one, you can't just not know where you're going and then just start going there. Okay, so it's very important you understand that use case. If you want to do threat hunting better, or if you want to replace some SOAR workflows, right? I kind of look at agentic AI, in that SOAR, what SOAR should have been at some point in time. But, if you're not focusing on the use case and going towards that, you're probably going to be spinning your wheels. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't play with AI all day long, and that's great, right? But if you're doing something within your business, you really need to focus. There's a lot of wasted money on AI projects that aren't real projects. And that's just basic project management anyways. So, and then when you get down that road on where you're going, you're spot on. It is not here to replace you. Instead, could you imagine where, it's just, think of it as don't want to say administrative assistant, right? But an assistant agent that basically comes to you and is like, Captain, this is happening. This is all this data behind it. And you're like, oh, wow, I have everything laid out in front of me to make a decision. And maybe, I could literally ask another question to get a little bit deeper dive. I don't have to remember to manually worry about, timings and when something happened, all this stuff is just there to help you. I probably will give you an example of something, no matter what, okay, in the finance side, okay, you have certain people processes, right, about fraud. At the end of the day, if someone sends in a thing that says, hey, I want you to change my routing number, right? Which bad guys do all the time. If you don't have a process that says someone else should look at that before you do it, you're in a world of hurt. The same thing with anything you do with AI. You need to have process where it says, hey, someone's going to validate that this is the right thing to do. Now, some things I would say are way lower risk, like just things like locking out an account. I might say, I give full autonomy to lock out almost any account, right? Maybe I don't do it for service accounts, right? Or maybe I don't do it for certain things that are high risk, but maybe I'm okay with doing that as long as I can unlock that account. Now, maybe I don't want to necessarily change a password for any account, because then having to do that requires me then to go back to the users, So certain things like that, you still need a process around it to make sure, and you will get better. And eventually those risks, sort of like Microsoft patching today. When's the last time you had to worry about on a workstation really testing a patch? Come on, Patch Tuesday comes out, let me apply my patch. Right? It's become that norm, getting there, that full ability to trust certain systems. And things will always break, but you're not going to be destroying your entire business, and having 20,000 people not being able to work. And so let's go on Autonomous SOC, right? And again, Autonomous SOC is in general just a buzzword, right? You will always need, someone at some level that validates what's happening. Maybe today you have certain playbooks, and those playbooks say, hey, I can quarantine a workstation, but I don't trust my SOAR to quarantine a server. Maybe that changes where today the oversight is we need 1 human per 1 million events, right? Maybe in the future we're at 1 human for 50 trillion events. We're just going to get better at munging those bottom end events. But you're still going to have oversight at some point in time. So true autonomous SOC that does everything for it and you never have to worry about anything probably is not something necessarily going to happen in this super near future.
I think it kind of works with hand to hand, pretty much what you're saying, Andrew, right? It's not here to replace, it's here to collaborate. And to help you, with your typical SOC workflows, whether it's in threat detection and data correlation, alert triage, even in like aspects of the incident response, which we're seeing as well being kind of handled autonomously in certain cases, not the full scale, but there needs to be some guardrails as well, because you don't want to kind of hand it out completely in a hope that it's gonna perform the way you expect it. We know perfectly that when you do so, there's always something that is meant to happen, unfortunately. But it becomes more efficient and scalable for different teams and resilient over time. And I think that's where it becomes very, very important. And like even autonomous SOC, like this autonomous kind of a concept, it also kind of starts off with the whole kind of generalization of what we started looking at when we look at the ChatGPT when it first came out 2 years or so, I think. We've seen it being kind of embedded directly into the workflow of the analysts. You've seen like AI assistants, AI investigators, providing you with additional insight in a particular case or an event, summarizing it, the NLP queries that you can create, the response aspect of it as well, directly embedded, the creation of playbooks directly with AI, and you kind of name it, it just continues and continues. So I think it kind of evolved through that aspect. And now we're seeing this kind of autonomous SOC where it's a position where I think we can start embedding it more into the day-to-day workflow. And that kind of ties in very well with my next question, because I think AI isn't just a feature, right? It changes kind of the way you design the entire SOC. So I want to know, like, are you thinking differently now about like tooling and roles and workflows in your organization?
I would say no and yes. I would say for sure, and this is probably even 2-3 years ago, if a tooling doesn't have AI capabilities already embedded in it, I'm probably not making it to the short stack for something that I might be looking for. So I think that the features within the tooling and its ability to communicate with other pieces of tooling absolutely are part of the decision. But that's been a couple years already going on. I would say the next piece is really, how we're going to go get to that agentic AI piece. And like, do I buy it? Does it come within my XDR platform, or do I buy it separately to rule, one ring to rule them all types of things? And I don't know about that yet. I do think that it's getting to the point where I will expect to maybe have that as a feature set, and hopefully not a free feature set of the best XDR SIEM platforms out there, I would think. But changing the way in that we're just looking for those feature sets, and it's become like a norm, right? If you don't have it, you're like, what? What are you guys doing? Come on. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or you're totally talking about your next feature plus or what. But I mean, pretty much everything, all my tooling should have those features and be interconnectable.
Actually, it brings a really interesting conversation that I had early on this month with an analyst who, the way he kind of positioned it is, he said, we're shifting from tool-centric to outcome-centric thinking. And what he meant by it is like, instead of like analysts jumping between like siloed tools, AI-driven platforms like some of the ones that you're seeing right now in the industry are kind of unifying the data, deliver contextualized incidents, and drastically changing kind of the daily workflows in some way or another. And when you look at it, it's kind of like the analyst role is also kind of evolving. AI handles kind of the grunt work, like correlation, enrichment. I know we mentioned a bunch of it before. And it frees the focus for the analyst to be more strategic about some of the investigation, do more specific kind of threat hunting and response refinements, you know? It builds the workflow of becoming more kind of autonomous and orchestrated. And we're building systems that are proactively kind of surface the threat, recommend actions in some cases, like I mentioned before, and even automate response with kind of guided humans, with humans kind of guiding the loop, not just stuck in it. When I look at it from that perspective, it's evolving so quickly and so fast in such multiple ways. I want to end with a little vision. And if you had to make like one bold kind of prediction about AI and security, how it intersect in the next 2 to 3 years, what would it be for you?
I believe, and let me see if I can explain this. What I've got in my head is the things that are happening now is just making, like I say, the normal person ability to utilize this technology. No longer, do you have to take a Python class, you know what I mean, and learn Python and understand the backends. So it's like bringing technology to the masses, and it's a great thing for that. I will also say that to be a really good cybersecurity person, you still kind of need to understand the underneath pieces, right? Don't just use the top coding, right, to do your position, but these types of things are going to be able to bring masses amount of data and, like you said, recommendation. It's not just about data. You can shove data to me all day long, and I'm like, what am I looking at? But to be able to come up with recommendations and then remediation steps, because I really think at the end of the day, it's about finding something faster. You can fix it faster. You remediate faster. You're saving the organization time and money. Maybe you're blocking something that could have been exfiltrated. Maybe you've got 5 PCs that were ransomware instead of 20,000 because you didn't catch it. And that power is really bringing to the regular teams, right, to be able to, it's like wearing power armor. But remember, you also need to understand how to use the power armor, and you need to keep up with it. Same sort of thing. It's just another technology, another infrastructure piece for you to understand and really augment you the best it can.
Couldn't agree more with you, Andrew. And the way I kind of see it is like security teams will essentially shift from operators to supervisors. Analysts that they won't be drowning in alerts. They'll be managing AI agents, to be tuning outcomes. They'll be handling truly complex edge cases. The SOC will become more, another one for you, proactive rather than just end predictive in some way or another. With AI continuously kind of learning from the global threats and patterns and, environment-specific behaviors, it'll move beyond just detection to anticipate and prevent attacks. And that goes as well for regulatory and the trust frameworks. So ultimately, AI will become kind of like almost your most valuable team member in the SOC. That's the way I've kind of positioned it. Well, we're near the end, and I would thank you so much, Andrew, for joining SOC Stars. I really appreciate you taking the time and joining us today on this amazing podcast. And for everyone listening, I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Vlad. Appreciate it.